Did you know that George Russell could replace Max Verstappen at Red Bull in 2025? A last-minute leak has revealed a hidden contract that could change everything. What does this mean for Russell's future and the balance of power in Formula One? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Russell would be a good replacement for Max? What's going on inside Red Bull that could trigger one of the most shocking moves in years? Today we're going to break down one of the most explosive news stories in the driver market, the secret negotiations between George Russell and Red Bull for the 2025 season. This not only implies a change of team, but could redefine the entire Formula One hierarchy. George Russell is experiencing one of the most important moments of his Formula One career. At just 27 years old, the British driver has established himself as one of the most respected names on the grid. His performance during the 2025 season has been exceptional. He currently sits fourth in the Drivers' Championship with 147 points, surpassing even Max Verstappen, who has 165 points, but behind Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, who lead the championship with 234 and 226 points respectively. This fact alone shows us that Russell is not only competing, but directly challenging the best. One of the key moments of his campaign was, without a doubt, his victory in the Canadian Grand Prix. It wasn't just another victory, but a milestone. He was the first driver outside of the dominant teams, Red Bull and McLaren, to achieve a victory this season. That victory not only shook up the championship, but also sent a clear message. Russell is ready to lead a serious project, and he can win when he has the right car. This performance has not gone unnoticed in the paddock or among the executives of the top teams. But what makes this moment even more intriguing is the contractual situation surrounding him. His current contract with Mercedes ends at the end of 2025, and although both parties have shown signs of wanting to continue together, a renewal has not yet been signed. In recent weeks, rumors surrounding George Russell have escalated to a new level. What initially seemed like simple speculation from specialized media outlets has now become a serious conversation within the paddock. Several sources close to the teams have confirmed that Red Bull has held preliminary contact with Russell, conversations that, although described as informal, have reportedly been taking place since before Christian Horner's departure. This revelation has set off alarm bells, as this isn't just any driver or any team. It's Red Bull exploring one of its direct rival star drivers. The most interesting detail about these approaches is the context in which they are taking place. Christian Horner, who was the team principal of Red Bull Racing until July 2025, was the one who led these negotiations behind the scenes. Knowing that Max Verstappen could activate his release clause, Horner was looking to secure a top-level alternative. And in that scenario, George Russell appeared to be the ideal option. His youth, his technical ability, his experience at a top team like Mercedes, and his hunger for titles made him a very attractive candidate to eventually take Verstappen's place. All of this, of course, went unreported until now. The situation became even more interesting when Russell himself, in a recent interview with Sky Sports, decided not to avoid the topic. On the contrary, he addressed it with unusual candor. He admitted that Mercedes is in talks with Verstappen for 2026. He didn't just say it, he normalized it. In his words, it's perfectly logical to talk to drivers of that caliber, and he added a phrase that has been analyzed in every corner of the paddock. If I'm performing like I am, what do I have to worry about? There are 2 seats in every Formula One team. That statement not only confirms that he's on top of things, but also sends a subtle message. Russell knows he has options and doesn't feel threatened. And in the middle of that strategic game is Russell, with a performance to back him up and a real possibility of becoming the big player in the driver market. Horner was the main driving force behind the talks with George Russell, and his departure has left that move in a kind of limbo. It's unclear whether Red Bull's new leaders have the same interest or if they will prioritize other options. What is clear is that the team structure is no longer the same, and that could radically change its priorities. For Russell, this change also creates uncertainty. He knows full well that negotiations without Horner are not the same. The former sporting director's strategic vision for his potential role within the team was clear: to replace Verstappen and assume leadership of the Red Bull project in the new technical era of 2026. With Horner gone, there's no guarantee that this proposal will hold or that those currently in charge share the same vision. This lack of continuity could make Russell think twice before making such a momentous decision for his career. Despite this uncertainty, Red Bull hasn't completely halted its moves. Laurent Mekies, who now holds a key role in team management, has begun to apply a more horizontal and collaborative philosophy, moving away from the authoritarian style that Horner represented. This approach could be positive for some drivers, but it can also convey a sense of organizational weakness in an environment as competitive as Formula One. If Russell perceives that the team is in transition and lacking clear direction, he could opt to stay at Mercedes, where, despite rumors, there is a much more stable structure. On the other hand, Russell's own entourage has been firm, but nuanced. In his public statements, he has expressed confidence that he will remain at Mercedes. He has made it clear he believes the likelihood of not continuing with the German team is extremely low. However, he also knows that he cannot ignore interest from other teams, especially if his name is mentioned as a key player in a larger deal. If George Russell were to sign for Red Bull for the 2026 season, it would be one of the most momentous moves in recent Formula One history. For starters, this change would have a direct impact on the Austrian team's competitive structure. Russell would automatically assume the role of absolute leader within Red Bull. That position, in addition to being prestigious, would come with enormous responsibility. From a technical perspective, Red Bull remains one of the strongest teams on the grid, with an advanced infrastructure and a top-level engineering team. Although they have begun to show signs of wear this season, they still have a very competitive base. For Russell, this would mean access to resources that could allow him to fight for the championship from the very first year. Furthermore, the Red Bull Powertrains project with Ford, which is set to begin in 2026, represents a unique opportunity to be integrated from the outset into a new technical phase, helping to shape the team's future from within. However, the disadvantages are not insignificant. Red Bull is going through a period of internal instability that cannot be ignored. The departure of key figures such as Christian Horner and Adrian Newey has left the team without part of its historic core. Although they are reorganizing, the path to a new direction will not be easy. For Russell, arriving in the midst of this process could be a risky bet. He would be entering an environment where strategic decisions are still being redefined and where it is unclear who will lead the team's long-term sporting direction. Another factor to consider is the pressure that replacing Max Verstappen would entail. No matter how talented and experienced Russell is, the bar is extremely high. The media, fans, and the team itself would expect immediate results. Being close to the podium wouldn't be enough. He would have to win, dominate, and prove he can be Red Bull's new benchmark. That expectation could backfire, especially if the car doesn't perform as expected in the first months of the new engine era. The timing of the move also has to be considered. Red Bull isn't at its best. If Russell makes the jump right now, he would be doing so during a rebuilding phase, when there are more questions than answers. He could have the opportunity to lead that transformation and emerge stronger, or he could be caught in the middle of a process fraught with obstacles. In contrast, staying at Mercedes could offer him a more stable path, albeit with the constant shadow of Verstappen looming as a direct threat to his seat. In the coming weeks, everything points to key decisions being made that could define the direction of the driver market for the coming years. Most sources within the paddock agree that the outcome of this case is expected before the summer break in August. That period is usually the turning point for the most important contract negotiations, and both Russell and the teams involved know that stretching the uncertainty beyond that date could generate internal tensions that are difficult to manage. From Mercedes' perspective, there is an urgent need for clarity. The team needs to know whether it will retain George Russell long-term or whether it will need to accelerate negotiations with other drivers. Although Toto Wolff has publicly expressed his desire to continue with Russell, he has also hinted that he hasn't ruled out a possible addition of Verstappen. This ambivalence comes at a cost. If they don't finalize their lineup soon, they could be trapped in a scenario where they lose both, or where one of them signs with another team before Mercedes has time to react. In the case of Red Bull, the outlook is equally complex. The recent departure of Christian Horner and the changes in technical direction have forced the team to rethink its strategy. The new leadership needs to make a firm decision on how to rebuild the project and, above all, who will spearhead this new era. If they want to secure Russell, they must move quickly and offer clear guarantees of stability, competitiveness, and prominence within the team. Otherwise, they risk Mercedes pulling the plug on the contract extension or a third party emerging interested in the Britain. What until recently seemed like a mere rumor has rapidly evolved into a very real possibility that could shake up the entire structure of Formula One. George Russell is no longer just a talented driver in search of results. He's now a key player on a board dominated by uncertainty, strategy, and internal tensions between two of the sport's most powerful teams. If his potential move to Red Bull ultimately materializes, we would be talking about a move that would not only affect Mercedes, but would also have knock-on effects on Verstappen's future, the technical direction in Milton Keynes, and the balance of power in the sport. Beyond the media interest, this scenario makes it clear that we are facing a pivotal moment. The immediate future of F1 is at stake. Contracts, strategic decisions, and leadership changes are intertwined to build a new order that could be sustained throughout the technical era that begins in 2026. And in that context, Russell has the opportunity to set the pace of that transformation, or to get caught in the middle of a silent war between giants. So I want to know your point of view. Do you think George Russell should make the jump to Red Bull and take over as leader of a team undergoing a restructuring? Or do you think his best option is to continue betting on the stability of Mercedes, even if it means living with Verstappen's shadow? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.